Okay, I think I am live. I always go a little bit live while it gets everything set up. So let me put this over here so I can see the chat. My husband was supposed to set the microphone up for me and he must have forgotten. So I'm just through the microphone here. I never checked the audio settings. Let me check. Okay. It looks like it's okay. Looks like I'm coming through. Yes, I am live. Okay, good. Yep. All right, let's just kind of wait until people, ooh, so I'm throwing stuff everywhere. My goodness. Hey, Jen. Hey, Sarah. I'm glad you guys could join me. I'm a little wind blown. I was out doing the chickens, putting the chickens in their coop, getting that all set up. Last week was way too hot. We got chickens, so little chicks. Well, some of them aren't so little. I think they're like 4 or 5 weeks old or something. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Amber. And I was getting all that set up in the coop. I'm just going to put like a warming plate out there for them in case the temperatures dip too low, but they should be good out there. My son was getting sick of having them in his bathroom. They were going to the bathroom everywhere because they were perching on the box and stuff like that. So we got that taken care of. So I was outside. Hey, Amy. And it was super, super windy out where we live. So, okay. So I literally just came up with this outline like an hour and a half ago because my day was so busy today. We actually had friends, the Reeves, Mrs. Reeves has been on the show. They were visiting their son's girlfriend this weekend up in Elgin, which is only like an hour and a half from us. So they stopped by on their way back to Nebraska and we showed them the whole building. And then we went out to Culver's with them. So that was kind of like right in the middle of my day. So I was scrambling to get everything done. Hey, Julia. And so I am going to try to hit a lot of things that people have been asking about. If you have any questions regarding teens, go ahead and put it in the chat. So obvious disclaimer, I have raised almost 3 teens all the way through. I have pretty much, 2 adults. Jason's 19, so I guess he's still considered a teen, but he doesn't, he acts like an adult. So Tommy, Jason, 2019, 17 and a half, and then almost 15 in a couple weeks. So Allie is 12. She will be a teenager next year. So for a while, I'm going to be going through a lot of teenagers that I'm raising. And obviously, we have learned a lot along the way. We're still learning. It's a never ending journey, parenthood. So I do not have all the answers. I'm just going to kind of go over basically what we have done in our home. So far, we are pleased with the results. Obviously, we are not perfect, but for the grace of God, it is through God's grace and all for God's glory that they are turning out great. So I give him all the glory for that. Just having them in church since the time they were little, getting the Bible in their head, I definitely think that has helped. But let's go over some things that we do in our home. Obviously, it's worked for us. It might not for you. Take what you want, leave the rest. You know how that goes. Hey, Beth. Okay, so I've been having quite a few questions about teens. A lot of my listeners are newly saved or they're first generation Christians. So they're trying to raise their teenagers differently. Now, I also will throw a disclaimer in there. We've been Christians the entire time we've been married. And so we had a goal in mind when it came to our children. Now, if you are getting saved later, let's say that you never really disciplined your kids when they were younger, and then you end up getting saved when you've got teenagers, you're facing a different battle than what I'm talking about. This is for a home where you want to instill these principles and character early on. So I'm talking about a Christian home where you get saved pretty early and then you raise them. So how to make teens feel appreciated. Your girls are a blessing. Thank you. And we're going to be talking about that when it comes to just what do my girls do after school, after high school, what are they going to do? And I'm kind of going to go over some of the things Abby's doing. Even Chloe helps out a lot. I definitely have the moms in church vying for my girls all the time, which I'm great with. I like them being mother's helpers. They're really good with kids. They're really good with babies because I've had them. And so they know how to handle babies. They know how to handle temper tantrums. They know how to, take them potty and change diapers and feed a bottle and all that good stuff. So we'll kind of go over a little bit of that, of them being a mother's helper and, different things like that as we go. And thank you, Beth. My hair is natural curly. I had it natural curly yesterday, but the wind has kind of destroyed it today. So, okay, I wanted to go over some truths when it comes to teens. And then I wanted to go over some misconceptions before I get into kind of some of the things that we do with our teens. So some of the truth when it comes to teens is that teens take a lot of time, and they do. And you might be feeling overwhelmed. And I have all ages. So I not only have the physical time that's invested in my little ones, chasing them around and potty training and all this other stuff, temper tantrums, but I also have the time that it takes into relationships with my teenage children. They have bigger problems that sometimes require bigger solutions and take a longer time to help them work through it than little problems of kids, a skinned knee or a temper tantrum over the candy they didn't get or whatever it is. So they have bigger problems, first jobs and, relationship problems with the opposite sex and heartbreak and crashing their car, which none of mine have yet. And, just bigger adult problems that take a lot of time. Hey, Amber. And as they become adults, you will have more influence over them rather than power over them. Now, when it comes to my 20 and 19-year-old, I could beat my chest and say, you're living in my home, you follow my rules or else. We don't really do that with them though. They're good boys and they know what's expected of them. And we're going to talk about expectations a little bit later. And they've never given us a reason not to trust them when it comes to things. I mean, they're adults, they're 20 and 19. So now we're going off of, they don't have to listen to us technically. I mean, they're still living in our home. But even when it comes to just heeding relationship advice and different things, they don't have to listen, but they choose to. So we have more influence over them rather than you have to do it because I said so, which we tell our little kids, right? They're going to know we're the real deal as a Christian by the time they become a teen. Kids aren't stupid. Kids pretty much figure this out early, actually. But especially by the time they become a teen, they're going to see if there's hypocrisy in the home. There's going to see if you're really striving to be a Christian all the time, not just at church. So that is a real truth. And you will also be learning how to adjust to each teen. Each teen has different temperaments, different personalities, different strengths, different weaknesses. And you have to learn, sometimes every situation is going to be different. You're not going to handle this teen in this situation like you would this one in this because of just different personalities and things. And then another truth is teens are a huge help in the home. And when I say huge, I mean a huge help in the home, especially since the time they are younger, you have trained them to be hardworking, you have trained them to be respectful, you have trained them not to be selfish and to look out for other people. Huge help, as the ladies in my church know. I would not get done near what I get done without my teens helping me. My boys, not so much as far as like help around the house, but as far as financially, and we're going to kind of get into this later, we do not charge them rent, anything like that, and we won't. But they help out in so many other ways. Like I said, we just got chickens. Tommy is the one that funded that whole thing. I've wanted chickens for years, and I've never been able to get them because I knew there would be a startup cost, and he decided, well, I actually had a devious plan. But I was like, Tommy, let's go to Farm and Fleet and look at the chicken coops. And he was like, okay. And he was thinking in his brain, well, they won't have chicks there. Well, they did have chicks there. And when he saw the chicks, he wanted chickens. So we bought the whole kit and caboodle while we were there, everything for the chickens. And it's such a blessing because I've always had chicken dreams. And now, because I have a son that doesn't have many bills living at home, working a high paying job, he actually grossed more than my husband last year. that he was able to help out with that. Same thing with Jason. When I go to Ireland in a few weeks, Jason bought my plane ticket. So I'm going with my 2 boys. And I'm really looking forward to it because that's another area where that's really going to build our relationship. And I believe a mom-son, a father-son, a mom-daughter, a father-daughter relationship is so important. And you have to work on those things, individually. So some misconceptions though. So some of the misconceptions about teenagers, I believe, I have not seen this in my own life, which this is possible, especially if you don't have their heart as they're growing up. The teens are rebellious and unruly. That doesn't always have to be the case. I have not dealt with much rebellion in my teenagers. Also, teens don't care about you. I do not agree with that at all. At least when it comes to my kids, I feel like my kids are very sensitive to criticism and they do not want to disappoint us. In fact, with most of them, if there's any problem that comes up, it only really takes a lecture. And I know they want to do what they can to please us. So I do believe that is a definite misconception. I know my teens care about me greatly, and I see it exhibited. So I think that's wrong. Hey, Janello. And Janello, you've got, kids coming up on being teenagers soon. So yes, Beth, I am very, very excited about going to Ireland. We have friends there, the O'Hakins. Hi, I'm going to talk to her, and I haven't even asked her. She'll probably watch this later and be like, okay, fine, I'll do the show with you. But when I'm there, I'm going to try to get her to do a show with me because I'm going to have a couple premieres because I'm going to a Monday. So it's not going to work out with doing lives for 2 weeks. But I'm going to try to do one with her there in Ireland. And Monica, I completely agree. They are a huge blessing. And that's what my girls do too. Also, another misconception I believe is that the teenagers are miserable for the parents. That has not been the case for us. They have been a huge blessing. And I like teenagers you can treat like adults in a way. They carry adult conversation. So I really, really like my teenagers. I can sit down and, not baby talk to them. So, and then also another misconception is the house is a war zone with teens. There's always shouting, there's always fighting, there's always slamming doors. First of all, my kids know that they better not slam a door because that's like my number one pet peeve. And they can tell you, I hate it when I hear a slam door. So sometimes, you know how the wind gusts go through the house if you have the windows open. Sometimes there'll be a slam door and I'll be like, and they'll be like, it was the wind, Mom. Like it was the wind. Like they make sure I know it was the wind because they know in my house a number one pet. I don't know why. I can't stand it if someone's angry and they slam the door. That really, really, really gets to me. So at least in our house, that's kind of my pet peeve. So it's not, now I'm not going to say there are not issues that you have to talk through because there are, but it doesn't have to be a place filled with shouting and anger and throwing things and chairs falling and doors slamming. And, that's a huge misconception. Your life does not have to be that way. So let's get into the things that, how we've approached different things with our teens. And these are the ones I came up with 23 things. But if you have any other questions about things we've handled, go ahead and leave them in the chat. So the level of trust. Okay, what level of trust do we give our teens, and when do we give that level of trust to our teens? Such as, do we trust them with a cell phone? Do we trust them going places? Do we trust them being out with their friends? Do we trust them dating? Different things like this. So we do have different levels of trust for how old they are. My kids do not get a working phone with that works on something other than data. My Chloe, who's almost 15, she does have a phone for things like Telegram, but it doesn't have service. So when she's on Wi-Fi, she can send messages through Telegram. She has Pinterest, and she has Instagram. Those are the only 2 social medias that she has. But when they turn 16 is when we give them a phone. Now, when I had boys that were 15, 16, I think a very, very foolish thing you can do as a parent is give them unlimited access to data. Give them unlimited phone. Let them go to sleep at night with their phone in their room. So one thing that we did is that when my boys first got phones, they only had data on Wi-Fi. So like they could call out and they could text, but they did not have internet other than Wi-Fi. So what we did is at night, we turned the Wi-Fi router off. Now I still do that because I'm afraid of getting cancer because it's right in our room. And I've heard stories, don't laugh at me. So I turned it off at night, but we started doing that just that they would have and for a while, when they first got phones, I actually made them leave them on the table at night. Now they're older and they use them for alarms to wake up and all that, and they're 20 and 19. So if I can't trust them now, that's pretty bad. And we kept the line of communication open when it came to phones. We told them about the dangers of pornography, and I gave them examples of even now at 20 and 19, I give them examples of things that can happen when they get involved in that stuff and the paths it can lead, such as Josh Duggar, who is getting ready to be sentenced for his disgusting involvement in what I consider child abuse, watching child pornography. And so we've always kept the line of communication open when describing the terrible things that you can get involved with on your phone. I do believe my husband has done a series that I would suggest anyone that's struggling with this to watch, where he goes over the statistics, and it's very, very sobering and very disgusting, the amount of men that are involved in this. And it's a big, big time no-no. So we talk about that quite often. As far as social media, the level of trust, they just recently, this past year, I believe, got Facebook. I had always said, once they move out of my house, they can have social media, but they're 20 and 19. And I don't want to treat my grown men like in my house, like children, because I do believe I have their hearts. I do believe they want to please us and make us happy. And, there does come a time where you have to hand over the reins to them, so to speak. And that's where kind of your child training comes out, and it comes out if you had their heart. It comes out if they really, truly love the Lord and want to please him, because rather than even us knowing, they should be more worried about the Lord seeing what they're looking at. And that's one thing that we tried to instill with our kids since the time when they're young. Why are you so worried? You don't even need to worry so much about what other people think of you. The Lord sees everything you do. The Lord sees what you're looking at on your phone. The Lord sees that. So we try to make it real to them and get that in their heart. Driving. Do I allow my teen girls to drive? Yes, I think driving is very important. I'm basing this off of, first of all, me being independent and knowing that I'm glad I can just get in my car and drive when I need to. Also, I have known of people that have not allowed their girls to drive, and they're, they got married and they're in their 30s, 20s, and they're just now getting their driver's license. It's really hard for them. It's really, really hard to overcome just the fear because they never did it. So at 15, we enroll all of our kids into a private driving school here in town. We know the man by name now because, we've done 3 kids. Chloe's probably going to in a few months from now because she's about to turn 15. So, and it's always a very, when they're driving, there's 2 of them. When they're observing, when they're driving, there's 2 of them. So, we feel comfortable with that. So yes, we do allow them to drive. My boys pay their part of their insurance, and that's about all. They pay their car bill and they pay insurance to us, and Jason pays his part of the phone bill, and that's really all that we, charge them. So, okay, so social media, like I said, they just recently got Facebook. Abby does not have Facebook. Abby only has Instagram and I believe Pinterest. Chloe has Instagram and Pinterest. From my interactions on social media, I would say Instagram is the most tame, which is why there's not a lot of controversy, mainly pictures on that. I've told my girls the danger of private messages and not responding to anyone they don't know. I haven't really ran into anything creepy with that yet or anything. As far as Tommy just got Twitter today because he wanted to follow Pastor Reeves on Twitter. But he's had Facebook now and Instagram for a year or 2, and I have not, He has not disappointed me. There's some kids, even as adult kids, they get it. And some of the stuff they do on there is just embarrassing to their parents. And I can tell. And so I even warn them about that. Are we judging? Yes, we are judging based off of real life experiences. I've told my kids, please don't act this way. Please don't embarrass us this way. So they know. So they've handled those things really well. And that just comes with the level of trust too. Because, as your teens go through life, you need to put them, I'm not going to say in situations that could be bad. Okay. I'm not saying that, but you don't want to just, how am I going to explain this? You don't want to just like shelter them so much that you just go on this compound and you keep them away from all the things of the world, and they never are on the internet, and they never have a phone, and they never, because that's not what makes good kids. What makes good kids is teaching them your values and why. Why do we do this? Teaching them to love Jesus, teaching them to follow his commandments. That's the root of what you're trying to do with your kids. You can't just abstain that, keep everything from them and just expect to raise. Josh Duggar is a prime example. That family never had a TV in their home, didn't watch TV, they had all these filters on their internet, but something was missing. Something was missing in the Duggar family that caused him to be a pervert. So it's not just about keeping all these things from your kids, because yes, you do. You have to give them an opportunity to be trustworthy. I'm not talking about putting them in danger's way, but give them something that you can oversee, that you can see what they're doing. You can see their posts. You can see their comments, give them something that they can prove that, yeah, I can be trusted with this. Because if you don't, you might be faced with them turning 18 and walking away from everything and then just going crazy. I've seen it over and over and over again. Okay, what about dating? So we don't technically do like dating when they're teenagers. And I'm going to say in this situation too, every situation is going to be different with each kid. Something might play out differently with one child than another. As far as, it comes to my older boys, if they are interested in a girl, when they decide that they want to pursue a relationship, then it would be chaperone dating that we would do with them. Yes, even though they're adults, because we truly do believe that just sending them out with a girl in a car, that is putting them in an area of temptation that even grown men shouldn't be trusted with, just because it's not smart. It's not smart to even put yourself in that situation. There have been, when it comes to our girls, I know when it comes to a guy liking our daughter, it's going to go through my husband. So everything will need to be run through my husband. And if they're a little younger, that's going to look different. They might be allowed to talk occasionally, but they won't be getting, unlimited texting privileges or, just phone all the time, phone privileges, and then once they turn 18, then they are allowed to officially date, if you consider, we call it prison dating. It's just chaperone dating. So like all dates will have a chaperone, they won't be left alone with each other. So, but they will get more privileges after they turn 18, as far as like talking on the phone, different things like that. So we actually have a pastor's son that is interested in one of our girls. And they have had weekly Zoom calls for a while now, and she turns 18 this fall. So I know when she turns 18, she's going to be wanting a little more privileges, and things are going great. He has been above board and ran everything through my husband. So he's doing what he needs to do, and they've proven that they can be trustworthy in this area. So they probably will eventually get more privileges. Hey, Nicole. So yeah, and I like that analogy, Monica. She says it's like hardening a plant. You take it out of the shelter a little bit each day till it's ready to be fully exposed to the elements. That's a really good. And if you just try to keep them in the shelter all the time, when you finally expose them to the elements, they're not going to have any roots at all. It's just going to be they're just going to cave or the wind's going to take them or whatever. So that's a very, very good analogy. I like that. Jobs. Okay, so jobs. Yes, our boys have had jobs since they were very, very young. My husband will tell you I was very nervous. 12, 13 is when they started tasseling. I was scared to death. You know, they're only 12 and 13, but he knew that they needed to learn to take a stand early on. And I'm glad he did, because I've seen them take stands with their peers since. So my girls, though, no. No. And Chloe, she wants so badly. She loves plants. Her name means green, which I think is really cool because she's my little green thumb. And she's the one who planted the garden, plants all the flowers at her house. And she wants to work in a greenhouse really badly. She wants to be around all the plants. That is yet to be seen. I don't think that's probably going to happen. When it comes to food industry jobs, absolutely not. I saw what my boys went through in those jobs, and that is nothing I would ever want my daughter in. What my girls do is, I wouldn't necessarily call this a job, but it keeps them busy. They are mother's helpers. And Chloe also helps Julia around her with her animals and different things. So I'm keeping them busy, and I'm helping them. I'm teaching them to be a help to other people. You know, it's important for them, especially at this stage in their age when they don't have a family of their own, to be a help. And I think it's important to learn skills as they're doing it. So, you know, Chloe is learning all these different things about animals and helping Julia and everything. And then Abby is, you know, a mother's helper as well. And I think that's a good thing to, if you have families in your church that you trust, where you would not mind your girls helping out, that it would be a huge blessing. You don't even know how much of a blessing that is to some people. I would have loved that actually when I was a young mom. Unfortunately, I never had that. And so I think that's one of the reasons I really encourage my girls to do it, because I see how hard it is. Or I remember how hard it was, and I didn't have help. I really didn't have much help at all. And so I just kind of muddled through. I survived, but we're not here just to survive. You know, you want to be thriving as well, and you want to be happy. And so if my girls can help out a little way in that area, then I want them to. Yeah, Nicole, it is. Food industry is a perverted industry. When we say perverted, it's because it's not a good environment. It's not a good environment. So I would never, and I've told them, you will never have a job in food industry. The things that they would hear, and they're precious, pure, innocent girls. So I'm not going to put them in a situation where things could be said to them and they could lose some of that innocence. I'm not going to do that. So my girls are definitely different. Boys need to be a little more hardened as far as taking a stand, learning what to stand up against, you know, trying to filter those things out, because they're going to be around that for the rest of their life, working a job, providing for their family. My girls aren't. So what about my boys? As far as working on church days, thankfully, we've tried to tell them that it's not wise to even start with missing Wednesdays. You know, we really take seriously first thing out the assembling. And so they have, with every job, even when they worked in the food industry, when they applied for it, they told them they could not work Sundays and they could not work Wednesdays. And they've been hired. Even saying that, when Jason worked at Walmart, he made that. And they tried a couple times to make him work, and he said no. When I applied, I said I cannot work Wednesdays and I cannot work Sundays, and they abided by that. So they've gotten away with not having to work ever on church days, and that's just something that we've tried really hard to instill in them. Since you may do differently with each child depending on the circumstances or personality, how do you answer the other children's complaints about fairness and treatment? And there are complaints, and we say, oh, well, this is a different situation. That's what we do. That's one of the biggest things we've learned raising teens, is that we cannot broad brush everything, and that there will be different situations pop up that we have to handle differently. And maybe there's a situation that pops up and we handle it one way, and then it pops up again and we handle it differently, but that's because we learned the first time. We learned from the first time that we handled it. So there's going to be and I think, if you talk about it, that will definitely help. We talk a lot to our teens about stuff that's going on. Not to say there's never arguments or never disagreement, but we talk a lot about it. So after high school is done, what is the plan as far as that? So after my boys were done with high school and they finished early, all three of my older ones have finished when they were 17. I don't necessarily like that. I would have done that differently. So starting from Chloe down, that will be differently. They will be at least 18 by the time they graduate. My boys ended up, as soon as they turned 18, Tommy worked the food industry job at Pizza Ranch. Jason worked there for a few months, thankfully, got to transfer to Walmart pickup. And that was a much better environment. He excelled there. He did really, really well there. Tommy did well at his job too. It was just a bad environment there. So as soon as they turned 18, Jason was easy because he just transferred right to the Walmart distribution center. Tommy applied there, ended up getting hired on. Now for the last couple of years, Tommy just finished his certification. He got a career diploma for electrician. If he will use that, I don't really know yet. He doesn't really know yet. Walmart is paying so well right now that he doesn't really want to leave it yet. He would have to become an apprentice as an electrician and then work his way up there. So he would actually be taking a cut in pay. Jason right now, and the school that they went through was like, what was it? Like Foster College? I can't remember what it's called, but Walmart paid for it. So Jason right now is doing the same type of program, but for plumbing. So we wanted them to kind of do a trade. It's a bunch of trades that you train for online. And so that's what Tommy picked, electrician, and Jason did plumbing. If they both go into that, I will be thrilled because electricians and plumbers are really expensive. But will my boys ever go to college? I'm not going to say no because it's up to them. At this point, Bible college would probably avail them as far as knowledge, nothing, but will they get a wife in the process? I don't know. You could probably find a good Baptist girl at a Baptist college. So I'm not going to throw that completely out. I'm not totally against it. I do think it is a waste of money. But as far as finding a spouse for my boys, finding a wife, that is an option. So good Baptist girls seem to be scarce nowadays. I know, Nicole, that's kind of what I've told him too. It would be better if he would, just take the cut now and work his way up, because I know there's a need for electricians and a need for plumbers. So, this is just kind of something that we're thinking about over the next few months, and we'll see what happens with it. Like I said, we're learning as we're going. This is all new to all of us. So, but my girls, after high school, so Abby is such a help, and Chloe, when Abby's, she helps too. And I almost feel bad sometimes because Abby does so much, but I don't ask her to do the stuff she does. She just does it. She's just a busy bee, always flittering around, doing laundry, keeping the kitchen clean, cooking. She can run an entire household. So that's kind of my goal with my girls, is that they know how to do that. So many women now are incompetent when it comes to even knowing how to cook, how to clean, how to do laundry, that I want my girls to be able to do that as they get older. So there's nothing wrong with learning that and learning skills along the way, such as musical skills. All of them play instruments. That takes up a lot of time. Being mother's helpers, helping around the house. And then keeping them busy even with outside projects, like Chloe with all her gardening and different things, that definitely keeps her busy. So I can't see us wanting our girls to go to college. I can't see that really being much of an option, even if it was a good Baptist college. I don't know. That is to be seen. And I don't think that's going to happen with Abby anyways. So Sarah, that would definitely be the plan. I would like that to happen. But as my boys get older and maybe they don't find a wife, in the next few years, would I be opposed to them moving out and buying their own house at 22, 23? Absolutely not. I mean, that's their choice that they can do that. So I do want them to stay home. Now my girls, especially, yes, I want them to stay home until they get married and start a family. I think that's the most ideal, especially just for protection. And I don't think it's good for a single girl to be living, you know, in her own home by herself. It's just a lot of dangers there. So yeah, that is kind of the plan, you know, that's kind of what we would like. So, but what do we expect from them? Okay, so we expect them to follow our rules of the home, even though they are adults or even though they are older teenagers. And obviously that would be the big rules like go to church, no drinking, no smoking, you know, no looking at things on your phone that are vile and bad, no worldly music. We've never dealt with any of that with our teenagers though, never. So if you are dealing with that with your teenagers, I really don't know what to tell you because I've never been through it. I'm sorry. Maybe if someone else has some comments or suggestions, maybe you were saved later in life and you were dealing with that. I know there's going to be a lot of battles. I think it would be worth it in the long run to get all that out of your home and to purge that. I'm not going to say that it's not going to come without battles in the home, though, major battles. So yeah, I'm not really well, I don't have a lot of comments on that because I've never really gone through that. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I expect from them as teenagers living in my home. I expect them to follow my rules. I expect them to not be sneaking, doing things behind my back. You know, things that they know I don't agree with. What do they expect from us? Well, I think every teenager wants to have a relationship with their parents. They want to be heard and they don't want to be treated like a baby. I know, at least for my teenagers, most of mine are pretty sensitive to criticism. And when it comes to my boys, especially, there's a dynamic that happens as they get older because I mean, I've got 3 men living in my house right now, lots of testosterone going on. And you know, your boys, they want to be treated with respect too. They don't want to be treated like a little baby. I've noticed, especially with my teenagers, they do not ever want to be yelled at in front of people. They're very, very sensitive about that. So I try not to. If I have a problem, I try to just take them aside and say something, because all 4 of them don't like to be yelled at, because it's embarrassing for a guy, you know, especially a guy that's a man. His mom's yelling at him, you know, that's embarrassing. And I think in the heart of a man, every man wants to be respected, you know, even if it is by his mom, he wants to have that respect. So I definitely try building up my boys. I try with my teen girls, teaching them that they are valuable and they are precious and they are beautiful. You know, so many teen girls struggle with feeling inferior and feeling insecure and not having any confidence. And I really think relationships play into a lot of that. Especially daddy-daughter relationships are really important when they're teenagers and they feel a lot of security just knowing that their dad loves them and thinks they're amazing and thinks they're awesome. Hey, Joyce. And yeah, sir, I agree. I would love it. I love having all my kids at home. I get sad thinking of the time that they're all going to leave. I get really sad thinking about it. Oh, so, but yeah, I think the most important thing when it comes to raising teenagers that I've found is just having their heart. You know, I do think that the teens that are sneaking around behind their parents' back, that can't wait till they're 18 so they can just get out of the home. They've had enough of it. They don't want anything of this Christianity. Something happened that the parents didn't gain their children's heart along the way. And it got to the point where the child stopped really even wanting to please their parent or stopped wanting to try to make their parent proud. So when I see that happen, I know that there's something going on in the home that's caused that. And I haven't really put my finger on what it is exactly, because I'm still learning as I go too. And it's always easier from the outside looking in, right? And so I have my thoughts, but I haven't really figured out where that disconnect is. But start from the time that they're young, you know, encourage them. Don't always be, criticize, criticize, criticize. You have to make them want to please you, encourage them. You may be so proud from the time they're little. Anytime that my babies even do something, I'm like, you made mommy so glad. You're such a smart girl. I'm so proud of you. Different things like that. And they get to where they want to be clapped for. They want you to cheer for them. And it doesn't really change much as they get older. They still want their parents cheering for them and on their team. So the teen years are a culmination of your child raising years. If something isn't working, it's okay to say, we want to do this better and we need to tweak it. You have other children coming up. So don't be so proud that you think that your model or the way you've been doing it works so well when you're older. Maybe you have some older rebellious kids. Maybe you have some that walked away from everything at 18, said, I'm done with this, moved out, doesn't really have much to do with you. Well, you've got all these other little kids behind. You've got to tweak something, really self-evaluate. Where did we go wrong? What did we do? What can we change? Where can we be better? Ask the Lord to help show you, be open to the Holy Spirit. Search his word, say, did I not have my kid's heart? Was I too harsh? Was I too easy? Just really, really self-evaluate. Sarah said, for me, it was a lack of wanted attention. So I went to the extreme opposite. I didn't want any of the attention. Yeah. And it's all about finding that balance, right? It's about not being a helicopter parent, but then, still giving your child the attention that they need. So it's always a balancing act. And then Beth said, I think you and Jill Reeves talked about how important it is to build relationships with your children so you can have influence with them later. Yes, because there comes a point where they can just walk away from it. So as they get older, you're guiding more with your influence, not your power of control over them. So definitely. Girls need their dads and boys need their moms. Of course, the opposite works too. But I definitely see a difference even in me and my boy relationships and me and my girl relationships. It's different. There's different things that are needed. My boys need me to cheer them on and be on their team and tell them I'm proud of them and tell them they're an alpha male and, pump them up. They need that. My girls need me to be there when they need me to talk to, be there when they're having a bad day and they need someone to share their heart with, not to be overcritical. Tell them I appreciate their help. There's just, you have to be more sensitive to things like that with that. And then the girl dad relationship is so important. I'm very glad that my girls, all of my kids, they love their dad very, very much. And I do think that plays into kids wanting to do right and wanting to serve the Lord because they know how important that is to their mom and dad. And I mean, my girls think that my husband hung the moon. And you know what? You can influence this from the time they're young. Anytime my husband pulls up, we're like, Daddy's home, Daddy's home. And so Kelly and Hannah will just run to the door, Dada, Dada, and he makes a big deal. Look at you guys, and picks them up and kisses them and hugs all over them. So they're excited. If you are, this is one thing I've noticed, if you're just like, wait until your father gets home, you're gonna, you're in so much trouble. You should be able to take care of the majority of the discipline. There are times when I've had to call in the colonel. I've had to call in for reinforcements. I'm having a really bad day. I need your help. There are having times, but the majority of the time I handle it. And when dad gets home, it needs to be an exciting time, make them happy to see him. So that's one thing we've always done in our home. My teens have brought me some of the most joy in my child rearing years because it's amazing when they reach an age where they have to make decisions and they make the right ones. But one thing that you need to remember is they will mess up. There will be things that maybe they don't do exactly the way you would. And they need guidance, even if they won't admit it. And your job is to be ready to forgive when they do mess up. Don't hang it over their heads all the time. Use it as a learning opportunity, and hopefully they won't want to do it again. I mean, my teenagers are human. They are not perfect. When it comes to times they have messed up, though, even on this platform in our church, you can ask any of our church. We don't go around like broadcasting things that our kids have done. My husband doesn't use them as examples from the pulpit. There's just some things. Every family is going to face different things in their lives, and the whole world doesn't need to know about it. And we've told our family, and we told our kids, we're not trying to hide things. Okay. There's a difference between hiding sin and just dealing with in-house things that pop up that the whole world doesn't need to know about. So we have told our children, this is a McMurtry thing. You don't need to go around broadcasting it. You don't need to be talking to your friends about it. If one of their siblings gets in trouble or something, that you don't need to go tell your friends that your sister got in trouble. That's going to happen. So just remember that your teens are going to they're going to mess up too. I mean, think back to the time that you were a teenager. Thank goodness there wasn't a lot of the internet stuff. I mean, yeah, there wasn't any when we were teenagers. And I do think that is where a lot of teenagers mess up, is maybe online things or social media things or relationships with other people. And it's really important, even when it comes to that with the social media things. I've told my boys, a screenshot is forever. So just remember, anytime that you want to leave a comment, you want to do a post, a screenshot is forever. So, and they know that, and they're pretty aware of that. So exactly. And that was one good thing about my mom. I remember when I was growing up, when I would do something stupid and get punished for it, she would not bring that up again. And I really appreciated that about her. If it's been dealt with, you don't need to keep bringing it over and over and over. Can you imagine if we sinned and Christ is in heaven and he kept just bringing, remember that time when you sinned? Remember that time when you sinned? No, when we ask for forgiveness, Christ forgives us and he buries that. He does not ever bring that up again. So be ready to forgive. Disciplining a teen. Now, we kind of have a thing in our home where we don't spank our teenagers. That's just our personal thing. I've always said that, the majority of the child training, and as far as corporal discipline, most of that is like before age 5, actually. Now, once they start getting up 10, 11, and 12, it should be a lot more rare. And by the time they're a teenager, if you need to still spank them over things, then you missed getting their heart somewhere. So thinking back on my own life and other people I have known, I think the only thing that a spanking does, as far as when they're a teenager, is causes bitterness to grow. So for us, with our kids, I feel like really we've taken away privileges. Definitely, and it's mainly been for like little things like back talking, sassing, lose your phone for this many days or whatever. Back when my boys played video games, Jason sometimes would get like so into the game and start yelling, and like when he was playing the game, that used to drive me nuts. So I would be like, you're done, you're off the game, you're done, no more for the rest of the week. I'd take it away from him for a week or something. Now he very rarely even plays video games because he's so busy working. But privileges, but yeah, I really think lectures work well. They have with my teens. In fact, sometimes they've said, man, I would rather just get a spanking and get it over with than have this huge long lecture. So lectures have worked well with our teens. Like I said, the goal is to have their heart at this point, and to hopefully they regret doing stuff and bringing sadness too. So that's the goal at this point. But building the teen up, I think this is definitely a huge thing with raising teens too. They really need a lot of encouragement during the teen years. I mean, think about all the things going on in the world and how so much is aimed at our young people. They're being bombarded by everything. So I really encourage you. I don't know how people raise good teenagers and they're not in a church. Because even just I was talking to my husband about it today. Tommy went out with us today. He met Pastor Reeves and went out with us and was able to talk to him and stuff. And the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've had special guests in, my husband's uncle, of lifelong friends that we've had in, and the boys have been there. My kids have been there interacting with the families and getting to talk to these godly men. And I love having that influence around my boys, because the more people that they come and interact with that are godly men and they form a relationship with, the more that's going to want to keep them. It's going to encourage them to keep living their life for the Lord. And it's going to encourage them not to get out of church. And it's going to encourage them not to choose a life of sin. So I love it that my boys are becoming close to and looking up to these godly men. We had the Randall family, all day yesterday. They've raised great children. And those are the type of people that I want in my life, where, their fruit is good. They live it at home. And my kids can see that, they live it at home. They really love the Lord. Their kids love the Lord. And I love having my kids around people like that. So definitely have them in church anytime that you can, and have good relationships with people in the church so that they can see that, your teens can see that. If you are always bitter and about people at the church, they're going to have that same attitude. If you're always having roast preacher for lunch, they're going to get to the point where they don't want to listen to the preacher either. And then when it comes to stuff that you actually want them to listen to, they're not, well, remember, you don't even like the preacher that much. You talk all the time about him. So be careful with that. And then giving the teen responsibility. I do expect my kids to be hardworking, to have responsibility in different areas. They kind of all have their own area in the home. Even Allie and Lana, now their job is to take the garbage out every Monday night. In fact, girls, if you're listening to this and you haven't taken the garbage out, take garbage out. That's their job. Give them chores, teach your girls how to run a home, teach your boys how to be hardworking. And I would say for teenage boys too, they need to be tired. So if they're just doing school and then the rest of the night they're playing video games and they're up till 2, 3, they might be tired when they wake up, and not for good reasons. So they need to be tired. My 20-year-old has just gotten into running races. In fact, this past week we did a potluck 50 and he did 40 miles on foot, which is insane. So he's recently gotten into running these half marathons. And I love it because it keeps him really tired, which he needs to. He's 20 years old. He needs to be doing stuff, first of all, that he looks forward to. And second of all, he's already working a really, really hard physical job. And then the half marathons on top of it. But it gives them a goal, it gives them something to work for. And I think teens need that. They need something to work for, whether that's, an instrument that they get good at and then they can perform, whether that's a garden like Chloe planted and then she's going to get to reap the benefits from that. They need to have something that's theirs that they can work towards. And Tommy's right now is the half marathons. So, and then that came to another thing, like letting them do things with their friends. I never really touched on that. It is going to be hard as a mom to let your kids do things, maybe a couple hours away, a few hours away, maybe fly across the country, because every worst case scenario is going to come to mind. But once again, if they've never given you the reason to not trust them, then you need to let them have a little bit of freedom. And even my sons with their friends, the one family too, Miss Monica, I just had on my show a few weeks ago. She had the baby at 45. Their kids are really, really good kids. So I have no reason to think that they would be doing anything wrong when they're with those boys. They've been raised the right way too. So, I still worry sometimes when my boys are like driving to Springfield and driving to Chicago? Absolutely. But do we ever get over that? I can't keep them locked up in the house forever. I can't. That's really hard. Letting go. You're going to also have to learn to start letting go as they become teenagers. And that's hard because we have all these fears, don't we? We have all these fears of car wrecks and, all these things happening, but you have to let them, live a little too. You can't keep them all contained all the time. Just remember that as they become teenagers, I firmly believe that as they start becoming teens and they grow, you're going to start reaping the rewards of all your work when they were younger. Because let's face it, younger kids take a lot of work. But if you teach them, you train them, you invest the time into them, you're going to start reaping the benefits of them reaping the benefits of that as they get older. And I'm telling you, I love seeing my boys serving in the church. It's such an amazing feeling when they're song leading, or when they're playing their instruments, or when they're out soul winning, or when they're just hanging out with the guys and laughing with the guys at church. That it's all worth it at that point. I can't imagine how awesome it's going to be when they marry godly spouses. You know, I don't like to think about it because then that means they're going to move. But it's going to be amazing when that day happens. And what's the verse? I have no greater joy than to hear my children walk in truth. Something like that. I probably butchered it, but it's true. Kids can bring you the greatest joy, but they can also bring you the greatest sorrow. And you never stop being a parent. You know, even from the time that you get those 2 lines, you're always a parent. Even when they're grown and they're out of your house, you never stop being a parent. So my main goal in raising children is that, you know, I glorify God in what I do, and that they glorify God in their lives. And if they do, I will be the happiest mom in the world. So hopefully these tips have helped. Like I said, we're still learning as we go. Please don't think I'm the expert on this. I've even had like friends ask if I write. I've had a few people ask me to write like a parenting book, but I'm still raising them. You know, and I don't feel like I'm an expert in this, because we learn as we go. We change things as we go. We tweak things as we go. Every situation is different. So I can't give you a 1, 2, 3, this works. You know, your children are different from my children. Your children have been raised in a different environment than mine have. But I think the biggest things when it comes to teen is have their heart. Remember that you're going to be guiding more by influence than control and power over them. And then be the real deal. You know, show them that you love the Lord. Let them see you serving the Lord, loving the Lord, soul winning, reading your Bible, praying, teaching your younger ones. They hear me teaching my little ones about Jesus and how we want to serve Jesus and we want to please Jesus. And even though my 2 younger ones aren't even saved, you know, so the older kids hear that too. The older kids see if you're just putting on a show or if you're really, really living at home. So I think those are the biggest things when it comes to teens. And then just having a relationship, realizing that it's going to take time and you're going to be investing in this, but it will be worth it. I've had many, many 11 o'clock midnight talks with different teenagers in my house. And so I'll have the whole day where I'm chasing after babies, piano teaching, homeschooling, all these things. And then I'm up super, super late, but it will be worth it. It will pay off, and it is paying off. So hopefully that helps. If you guys have any other questions or comments, please leave them below. Sometimes some of my videos get so many comments, and even if you just comment and say, you know, I agree, I don't agree, whatever, I don't care, but it does help the algorithms. The ones that have the more comments, YouTube seems to recommend them more for some reason. So yeah, it's interesting how that works, but go ahead, like, share. If you haven't subscribed, please do, all that good stuff. And I hope this was a help. Actually, I'm going to have 3 weeks now that I'm thinking about it. Sorry. I'm going to have 3 weeks where I'm going to have to do premieres, because also one of the Mondays in June, we're taking our kids to a primary junior camp, and I'm their counselor. So I'll be there the whole week, and that starts on a Monday. So we'll figure it out. I'm trying to get more guests on here. So if you have any suggestions for repeat guests, please leave the comment below. And there it is. I have no great, thank you. I love it when you guys put the verses in that pop into my mind. That helps so much. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. So I don't know if I butchered that or not, but there it is. Thank you very much for putting that. And thanks, Jen. I know that you are going to be embarking on lots of teenagers here pretty soon too. I know you have a couple, but you're going to be in teenage land. Now your older ones are boys. So I know, I'm sorry. I feel like boys are easier. My girls are watching. I'm sorry, girls, but I don't know. I feel like my boys have been easier. So that's just my personal opinion, but all right, guys. So thanks for joining.